Hey everybody, so I'm back with a new video, and I'm going to talk about where I am right now. If you notice, I put yellow tape around my border to create a perimeter. I did that for reason being is that when I fill the value in, I peel this off, there's a nice clean edge, and it also helps the frame of what I'm trying to look through. You can draw right on top of the tape. If the tape becomes annoying, starts to peel back, you can forgo the tape altogether and clean up afterwards, but it's just a little easier to do now than later. However, I'm going to jump into the drawing. So what I've done is, you can see here that I made a square here, which represents the apple on the left, and I made a square here, which represents the apple on the other side. And the square, and then both those squares go outside of the border, and I tried where they intersect, I tried to keep it a little off center so it doesn't look so centralized, because there's going to be a focal point there anyway. I don't want to double that amount of focal point by putting it directly in the center. I'm pretty close to it. Hopefully it doesn't become an issue. And now I'm going to start to break down the form, meaning the rectangle that I originally drew, just like you've done in the previous project. Now I'm going to break down the form, try to understand it. So if you think of an apple, think of it as planes, but in the beginning you just want to do straight line construction. But I'm also going to just show you what I mean by planes. Like, for example, an apple, if this was made out of geometry, actually, if I did something like this apple could be, I'm using a 2/8 here, sorry. Probably can't see what I'm doing. The apple on the left could be derived from this square. So if you see this top plane, it's kind of what I'm seeing right there. There's a side plane, there's a front plane, and there's not 6 sides. That's if you simplify it into 6 sides. Of course, it's a rounded form, it's a continuous plane, it goes all the way around. But this does help to understand, like, oh, the majority of that is facing up. Otherwise, your brain starts to draw what the brain thinks it's there, and you're not trusting your eyes. So it does always help to go back to geometry and just say, how is this seated? What's the position of this form if it was a rectangle? Okay. Or a cube. In this case, I have a flat rectangle, and now I found the central axis line, which is right there. Okay? Central axis line is a bit of a diagonal. So if you were to draw a figure and the figure is bent over, the central axis line of the figure's back is a diagonal. So it's this imaginary central line going through the form. And that helps, you can build from that, almost like an armature. If you're thinking of, think of sculpture, figures are built with an armature underneath, like a skeleton. Think of that as a skeleton. So how do I find that? I use a straight edge. I just have a ruler here, and I'm going to hold my ruler straight up and down, and I'm going to angle it, and I'm looking at right where the stem goes into the apple itself. That's the center point of the top. And if there's an imaginary line that went through, it goes on a diagonal out the other side. And so you can kind of see I have 2 different lines here. One of these is close, as long as I kind of get the idea. But you do want to figure out if that is the center of your rectangle. Is it the center here? Or is it from the right of center? So you want to establish where that is exiting out of the apple, the stem. To me, it's on the right of center. So, but that's just not from looking. You can measure and double check. So I'm going to measure the left side the right side of the stem and compare it to the left side. It's shorter. So if this is where the stem is, probably around here, because this is where my central line is. If I measure this to this, it's shorter. Maybe not that much shorter. Maybe it's moved over here just a little bit more. So it's probably like right here. used the wrong rectangle. Okay, that seems about right. So you can see, I'm gonna say it's like right there. So all those lines I put in, I kind of just threw trying it out, guess, check, guess, check, guess, check, guess and check. It's what I like to call it. I found it, I located it. So it's probably about right there. So then I'm gonna put this diagonal in that I already cited because it's like this. Okay, I have that. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to locate the high point, which is right here. That's the high point of the apple. It's over on the far left-hand side. It's left of that central axis line. And I marked it here already, and that's kind of what I'm going to go with. And it kind of rides there for a while too. It's like from here to here, because it kind of flattens out at the top. And then from there, it goes on an angle down. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cite the angle. And I'm citing this angle right here. And it's not a straight angle, but it's pretty darn close to it. So I bring it here. And you can see I had this marked down here. And that is where I'm going to connect those 2 points. Just like so. I'd say it rides the apple for a little bit, like right here, it rides the edge. The other part of the apple that seems to be flat is right where the central axis line goes in. It touches the ground and then it starts to go up. You wouldn't think an apple could be this complicated, but if you break it down and really draw the exterior right, it's so easy to apply the skin. You don't have to worry about drawing. So take your time doing this. This is the foundation, the structure that you build upon, that you put the skin on, the framing of the house, and then after that you put the siding on. Okay, so I kind of have the left side done. Now I'm going to work on the right side. This apple is really lopsided. It looks like a flat tire. It's kind of like angling down to the right pretty dramatically. So this point right here is much lower than the other side. And I'm just going to take that top part and find that angle, which I have, and I'm going to bring it over here. Something along the lines of that. Yep. And then I'd say right around, because now I'm looking for the widest part, and the widest part I'd say is like right here, which seems to be it's on the other exact same as the other side, and I can just take a horizontal line and line it up with that. Since I already have this information, I can figure out the other side. So now I'm going to take that, and yes, it lines like perfectly up with this guy. So I'm going to put a point here, and connect. I think I'm going to put a point here because this area right here seems to be to the left of where those apples meet, maybe here. And I'm going to draw a line straight down. Okay. And then from there, it kind of rides to about here. And then the flat part on the bottom, it looks like it rides the flat part of the bottom for a while, maybe to about right here. And that's my guess. I'm going to check it. I'm going to run it up to see if it hits the stem. It's to the right of the stem. So I'd say it's like right here. So it rides to bottom here, and then it starts to curl up. Not to this point, but a little bit lower to there. So you can kind of see that I drew this apple. And when you think of an apple, well, it's a circle, just kind of draw a circle, and then you can adjust it a little bit. It's not that easy. You want to draw it exactly as you see it. And then now we're going to break down the other one. I'm not going to put any rounds in here yet because this might dictate some of that. So now I'm going to break down the other apple. And so I'm trying to find the high point. High point seems to be, I'd say like right here is a pretty good check. And the high point is right there. It's the highest point. Count it 3.5 times. Maybe it's like right here. That's the high point. So I was a little too far to the left. Then after that, it goes down on an angle. And then it goes in and it meets this thing about right here. Because these overlap right in the center. Then it goes down, rides that till about right here. There's a point right here that it touches the ground on, and if I drew a line straight up, it looks like it would hit the stem, but I have to find the stem. So before I go any further, I'm going to locate the central axis line, which I did first here, but I haven't done yet here. So I'm going to do that now, because I can't figure this out until I get that. So I tried to see if this was in the center of the apple. It's a little to the left because I measured from where the stem is to the left part of the apple, and it compared to the right side. It was shorter, so it tells me it's to the left of center. Pretty simple stuff. So you find center. That's center. So it's to the left of center. So if I drew one straight up, that'd be center. I'm going to say, so it's to the left of center, which is about right here. I put my dot in, and now I'm going to put my central axis line in. So I'm going to find my central axis line. In this case, it's opposite. They're both kind of facing one another, leaning on one another. So it's a little bit to the right side. Okay, so there's that central axis line there. And now, if I drew a line straight down from the center, or not from the center, but where I think the apple core or the apple part is, it's about right here. And that's what I was trying to find here. If I go up a little bit to about like right here, that's where that meets. So the reason why it's really important to draw in straight line construction is because you can start to make these what do you call them? Registration marks, but they're landmarks. This is a landmark. This is something you can always refer back to and then compare to. So that's really important that you have that there. And then after that, I just kind of finish around, and I'll explain in a minute. So it hits the bottom, rides the bottom for a little bit, and then start to kind of curl back up. It does something like this, this, and this. But I'm going to cite all of that. The widest part is like right here, so I'm just trying to find out where that would be on this line, the hard vertical line that I have. It's up here somewhere, so it's like right here. So this curve that's going to be here is going to be like this, so I'm just going to kind of make a line like this. And I'm drawing right on top of my tape. It's nice about transparent tape, you can see through it. because the line I put down before, because I put the tape on late, so there's a line underneath of it, but I can see through it, so that's nice. It's here. I'd say it rides this for a minute, and then it kind of like comes back down again. There we go. Okay, so here are our general apples. I could take it a step further and start to kind of locate where I think the stem would be, which in this case would be like right here, and this stem would be right here. You know, where the stem goes into the apple. And then it could just get an idea that this is the top of the apple and this is the top of the apple. So the top plane of the apple is kind of right here, the top plane of the apple is right here. I'm just suggesting that it's there. That's basically all I have to put in at the moment. I don't have to think about volume just yet. I am going to start to put the skin on though. And whenever there's a value shift, there's usually a plane shift. In this case, because this apple's lighter here, that's an exception. There's a value shift there, but that's just because of the composition of the apple. All right, so at this point, I'm almost finished with this stage. I'm going to round the apple off. And to do that, I'm going to sharpen my pencil real fast. And now we're going to study the apples. Study the apples because some of these generalized lines you put in, you might have cut in too deep or you didn't cut off enough. So you don't rely on them. They're just a guideline for you. And then you're really going to study these apples, but you have a guideline to kind of work yourself around. So by breaking this down, you're not just going to go in and draw an apple. Be like, there you go, there's my apple. Take your time, really figure this out. And remember that the apple has to touch the exterior part because that's what you measured. So up here, I think I'll start up here, there's a little bit of a round. In this case, I added a curve. It rides the line right here, kind of strangely. Curves back in, comes back down. Rides that for a minute. Comes back down. Oops. Went a little wide there. I was following this line. I didn't need to do that. This is the bottom here, so I'll start from the bottom and work my way up now. And then this goes here. So you can kind of see the apple is tilted to the on a diagonal now. It supports what I'm looking at. If I find later that I need to flatten this a little bit more and curve this out, I can do that. But I just need to get this down. I can make adjustments later on. I'm going to move to the second one here. Okay, so I went a little wide here. I'm going to take that off. But I have the basis of this. They just overlap and kiss a little bit there. And then from this point on, I can start to erase my lines, my straight line construction, my geometric lines, because you're going to put a skin on top of this. This is not a contour line drawing where you want to think about line weight and all that stuff. The line will disappear completely. You're just creating the exterior so you know where to begin and end and edge. So now you're starting to think about edges. And that's going to be the second part of the video. So for now, you can start to erase. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to use your kneaded eraser to lighten the lines. Once you erase and get the curve and everything the way you want it, then you can change it slightly. And I'm just going to double check this and make another video. Until next time.